Thanks for joining us on the all-new P.A Radio channel. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. I'm Kevin Graham. I'll be your PA field agent and investigative reporter. Now, turn down the lights and draw the shades as we dive into this week's episode.
And this is part one of another exciting episode of Paranormal Addiction.
Hello and welcome back to Paranormal Addiction Radio. I'm Rainbow Owl, aka Alex, and
I'm the voice of the North, Della.
what about last week's show? Or the show before last week, or whenever it was?
No one here.
You weren't here, so you can't... Well, did you listen to it?
Yeah.
And what did you make of it?
Yeah, we're good.
It were good?
Yeah. I still want here, though.
I tell you, you'd be good as one of them people that review films, wouldn't you? What do
Yeah.
you think of the new film that's come out there? Yeah, it was good. We had Cheryl Carter on. We had David Childers on. We had Tommy Hamilton on. Remember?
Yeah.
Did you actually watch it or listen?
Yeah, and then after that, when you were interviewing Tommy, you actually got an EVP.
Oh yeah, we caught an EVP.
Yeah.
Yes, on the
You said
actual
it to
show.
me, and you were saying, yeah, listen to that, and I did too, and I told
Well,
you.
you've always said the house has had some strange
I've told
goings
you
on.
what's going on in this house, and you didn't believe me, did you?
No, I still don't believe it's haunted.
Ah.
I think there's an explanation for
You won't be
everything.
saying that when someone gets chucked at your head.
Yeah, but that's usually you throwing stuff at me,
I don't
and I
think-
don't do as I'm told.
I don't think so. So what do you actually think that it was? Do you actually think that these
I think, personally, could have been some sort of static interference with the microphone, perhaps. And,
No, I don't think it was.
but saying that, why didn't it happen with anything else that I was doing?
Yeah, but I've said to you many a time, haven't I? And I've said this as well before. I have actually seen things walking through that hallway. They entered the kitchen, and me and the dog have actually seen it. We watched it, and then the dog looks at me as if to say, "Did you see that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I can't talk to the dog, what obviously, because I'm not a dog whisperer, but he does look at me as if to say, "Did you see that, Mum?" And I'm like,
Well, they do say dogs are sensitive to stuff like that.
yeah, he watches a lot of stuff. I actually do. This is a bit of a tip, guys. If you've got animals and your animals start looking in areas and start following stuff that's not there, it's probably some entity that they can see and you can't see. And that's a true fact, is that. I've always said, always trust your animals. I don't care what anybody says. And about other people as well. If your dog don't like someone, trust your dog. They're probably a-holes.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about dogs.
No, but I'm just telling you about the dogs.
I know you're telling me about dogs, but this isn't.
Well, it don't matter, does it? I'm just saying.
This isn't Chuffs. Is it Chuffs? The show?
Cross you
Crufts.
muppets.
Chuffs.
Well, you bloody muppet.
Anyway, if you're
Lord.
wondering what we're talking about regarding this EVP, please find it on the channel. It's on there. It's titled EVP Caught on PA Radio. So check that
And it's
one
actually,
out.
it is a voice. It is. It just, I can't remember what it says now. What does it say? Don't go there.
Don't go there, or don't see
don't
that,
touch,
or
no,
something
it says
like
don't
that.
touch that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Because you say it to me and says, what's it saying?
Yeah.
So I sent you a message back, didn't I, saying it? Because Alex communicates with me when you see, I'm not always here with Alex, so we have to do it. We have to be
Well,
doing.
maybe it was you, the voice
No.
from above, communicating
No,
with
we have
me.
to do it magically, you see. But people think of me, but I'm not. I'm 100 miles away, but there you go. Anyway.
What are you blabbering on about?
I'm talking to you.
Anyway, well, can we get on with the show?
I'm in
So
space.
your magic tricks or whatever you're
I'm
talking
in
about.
space half the time.
What's happening on the show today?
We are actually talking to a demonologist who's going to talk about his experiences and how he got trained up with the church and the pastor that he worked with. He's called Rich Valdes, and he's going to explain everything to you all tonight.
Oh, thank you very much, Stella.
You're very welcome.
Very politely done there. Anyway,
Oh,
Rich.
I can see somebody getting a slap.
Anyway, Rich. How are you? Please give us a little short introduction to yourself.
Hello, everyone. I've been investigating the paranormal now for approximately over 30 years. I've been a demonologist now for Bishop James Long's church, the United States Old Catholic Church, for 5 years, but I've been working with him through the paranormal clergy for about 10. I have my own team out of South Florida, Paranormal Consulting Agency. I've been mentioned in 2 books, Ghost Hunters of the South, as well as State by State. And I've also been on A Haunting, the show A Haunting. And I had my radio show for approximately 2 years on and off called Greetings from Beyond Radio.
Now, Rich, how does one become from a paranormal investigator to a demonologist?
When it comes to the paranormal and demonology, 2 totally different subject matters. One was due to personal experience when I was 16 years of age, and I couldn't find the answers that I was looking for through various churches that I went to. They just told me it was nothing, so I had to basically go and look for my own answers in the library, and that's how I came across Hans Holzer. When it comes to demonology, which is theological in origins, the pastor saw something in me that he said I just had a natural knack for, so he nurtured that, and years down the road, I finished my training formally with Bishop James Long and the United States Old Catholic Church.
Now, as an ex-paranormal investigator myself, we would never get involved with anything to do with demonology. It was something we just would not get involved with because we didn't have the knowledge or the experience as someone like yourself has got. But saying that, there are paranormal investigators out there that will push the limits and dig deeper and try and, if you like, aggravate this. Now, their naivety may not suggest that they know what a demon actually is. Is it just the spirit of someone that was evil in living form? Or is it something completely different?
A demon is considered to be an inhuman spirit. Is it evil? I guess technically you could say it is considered an evil spirit. But it's not human. It never was human. It was considered to be angelic. Through the studies that demonologists have to go through, there's many different cultures that don't consider the same Judeo beliefs, and they believe demons to be other things, and they would call them evil spirits. That being said, to answer your question, no, they weren't considered to be human. If anything, they in many cultures are considered to be spawned from nature. In the Judeo-Christian belief, they are believed to be fallen angels. That being said, one of the many dangers that paranormal investigators will come across when investigating is that you really don't know what you're getting yourself into. Oftentimes, when they feel that they may be way over their heads, that's when they should call an actual demonologist. There's so many demonologists or individuals that are self-proclaimed demonologists, but oftentimes they reach out to anyone that has that title. If you'll notice, I don't even have that title on my Facebook page. Very few select people know that I actually work for the United States Old Catholic Church. I actually do more work for the United States Old Catholic Church than I do independently. If anything, I do more consultations by phone on various cases from different parts of the United States and even across the world. So oftentimes what it comes down to is my time is very limited, and when someone does come to me with questions, I try my best to give them the best possible answer that I can possibly give them.
So as the demonologist, how do you recognize that you're dealing with something that's perhaps a demon?
To establish that I'm actually dealing with a potential demonic situation, I often have to go through various testings that I really can't go into because due to the fact that I've been trained by Bishop Long and other individuals in my time, that these are testings that you have to do in order to verify whether this entity that is harassing the individual in question is inhuman or human, because a person can be attacked by either a human entity or a demonic entity. It's verifying which one it is. Personally, when it comes to dealing with anything demonic, I would rather deal with something human, because the dangers of dealing with an inhuman spirit is that they know much more about you than you know of them. I would actually say that they're more predatory than anything else. A human spirit is usually confined to an area. Very far and few between, you'll see human spirits that actually attach themselves or will actually possess an individual. Inhuman spirits, demonic entities, are entities that have never been human. So their whole purpose is to actually possess the person so that they can then take over the soul. Once they do that and they've accomplished that, they've actually been successful.
So, Rich, how do you recognize that someone's been possessed by something demonic? I mean, does their personality change?
You're correct in saying that, yes, their personality will change, but in reality, it's not even their personality anymore. In an extreme situation, like an actual possession, which is very, very rare, it's not the person's personality that changes. You're no longer speaking to that person anymore. You're actually dealing with something inhuman, demonic. You're actually dealing with something that's considered to be thousands and thousands of years old, that actually predates humanity. So that being said, yes, their sole purpose is to take over the person completely and soul-wise as well. That being said, I hope that your listeners understand, now that there are so many cable TV shows out there, screaming demon on just about every single show. Oftentimes, and this is something that the clergy takes a lot of offense to, is a lot of times it's not even demonic at all. There's mental illness that must be taken into consideration. I don't really take over when it comes to that. That's when you have a psychiatrist or psychologist walk in and take over. There's also a lot of factors that need to be weighed. If there's mixing of medications and they're having diverse reaction to the medication, that's something else that must be taken under consideration. So that being said, I hope people understand that, demonic possession is very rare.
Can every demonic possession be dealt with, or are there situations where it just will not leave the host and the individual in question will be stuck with this demon? And let's say that the possession has been dealt with and it's gone, but then it comes back. Can it come back?
There are such things as perfect possession. They're very, very rare. It's when usually the host, the person in question, actually welcomes this demonic entity into their vessel, their body. And yes, it is possible for a demon or more to come back after a successful exorcism. In fact, it's mentioned biblically speaking that they're cast out and they go on to dry places seeking refuge, and they can't find any, so they go back to where they were expelled, but they come back with 7 more wicked than it. So yes, to answer your question, it is possible for them to actually come back and possess the person. I hate to use the word repossess, but yes, it's almost like a repossession, but it would be worse than the first time around.
It's pretty frightening and scary stuff, this, isn't it? Anyway, we have David Childers with us on the show, and he would like to ask you a few questions.
Rich, how you doing, brother? Glad you're on the show, man. Hadn't talked to you in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I do have a question. Now, I know we've talked about this before in the past on the phone or via text or something, over the years. What exactly, what was your most intense case that you ever been on, if you're allowed to talk about it?
My most intense case. Wow. There have been so many, but far and few between. But the one that actually stands out happened here in Utah, and I'm trying to remember the name of the location. Nona's is the name of the restaurant. I believe it's been featured on Ghost Adventures. What I found fascinating is I prepared myself to go in with Jen and her cousin, and I actually, asked prayer for protection over both of them and myself. And the moment I walked in, at least in 3 different occasions, we had the lights flickering, and whatever was there knew that I was there, because I was going with a caravan of warrior angels, and they did not like me being there at all. That being said, that didn't stop them from actually messing with us after the case. After it wasn't even a case, we actually went in there, just nonchalantly sat down. We ordered something to eat, and after talking to the owner for a good hour and a half, when we got home, my little baby girl was sick. She was fine before we left. Jen's son, all of a sudden, in the morning, he later on told us that he had a dark shadow figure that had him in a crucifix position. He was literally sleep paralyzed and couldn't move. And there was a lot of fighting between Jen and I for a good 3 days. And I realized, they had somehow gotten to us. Unfortunately, this is one of the many dangers that come along with being a demonologist, and a lot of people don't seem to understand the dangers. Don't just take on the title of a demonologist and then think you're gonna walk away having watched a few episodes of Supernatural and using some salt and holy water. That's not how this works. This is something that takes a lot of training, years of training, and a lot of mental stamina. You have to literally be ready for what I call psychological warfare, because they will mess with your mind. That's for sure. I hope that answers your question, Dave.
Oh, absolutely, man. That sounds like it was tense, man. I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I really wouldn't. Big props to you. I don't believe I'd actually want to get in a situation like that.
Dave, I guess if you're ever in a situation like that, I could always use the famous line from Ghostbusters, "Who are you going to call?" And just call me in. I mean, there's not much I can do other than to verify whether it is demonic or not. And that's another myth that I'd like to correct. There's a lot of demonologists going around out there, and also on TV, and they have people believing that they can actually go in and do an exorcism, and that is not the case. A true demonologist does not have the authority from clergy to actually do an actual exorcism. In fact, they can assist during an exorcism and during a minor rite of exorcism. But a solemn rite of exorcism they cannot perform. I would end up having to call Bishop Long, have him come in, or anyone else that works with him, and assist and help out. So I hope that answers your question. Well, it really wasn't a question, it was a statement, but yeah, just throwing that out there. And I hope people understand, they don't get pissed off at the facts. These are facts. A lot of what you see on TV, there's a lot of people misleading people, not only on TV, but social media, having people believe that demonologists can actually cast out demons, when in fact they don't have the authority from the church in order to do that. They don't have the formal training.
Rich, with regards to people's beliefs and their religion, if you are a very religious person, are you more vulnerable to a demonic attack?
I find that, to answer your question, Alex, when it comes to whether you have a belief structure in any one particular faith, religion, would it make things easier against, if you ever come against anything demonic, yes, it would. Would they attack you more if you were religious or non-religious? You know what? To them, the ones that do have faith in whatever religion they do, that individual has faith in, they find them to be more of a challenge. So yes, it's kind of like, taking on that challenge. I want to take on the big dog in the yard and see if they can bring him down. One of the most infamous cases for that was the Annalise Michiel case. For those that don't know Annalise Michiel, she was better known as Emily Rose, and she was a very devout Catholic, very faithful, never missed church, did mass, and she was attacked. She was completely possessed. Actually, my speaking engagements revolve around her case. And it amazes me that they blamed what she was going through, at least the medical community, as being epileptic seizures, and when in fact it wasn't that at all. And to this very day, it's one of the landmark cases. The reason it's a landmark case is because after that case was over, unfortunately, her life expired, and the bishops and the parents were actually held in contempt of court. This is something that actually happened in Germany, not in the United States, as the movie would have you believe. And they actually did serve jail time for involuntary manslaughter and not tending to her. She actually weighed somewhere around 69 or 70 pounds around the time of her death. When this case came to light to the Roman Catholic Church, they were the first ones to start with the protocols of making sure that mental illness and medical field were actually involved before taking on any kind of case that would be deemed or considered to be demonic, in order to avoid the lawsuits that could transpire. This is oftentimes why it is so difficult to actually have the church call a case demonic, because you have to go through so much red tape, because they got to cover their own ass. I hope I can say that on the air. When it comes to someone claiming they're demonically possessed, they need to rule out mental illness and all other factors before they move forward.
So basically then, a demonic possession, it's a demon that wants to bring harm or even end that person's life.
Most definitely. Their intent is to take down whatever's been created in the image of God, which happens to be the human race. And that is their sole purpose. Their sole purpose for existing in the first place is to actually corrupt what God has created. And once they're in, it's hard to get rid of. I've read of demonic possessions that have lasted for over 10, 15 years. Oftentimes it's just more than one, believe it or not. Sometimes it's a few that are in there that need to be rid of.
Thanks for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the show so far. Please join us next week for the conclusion of this show. I'm Kevin Graham, and y'all have fun.